What happens when a country famous for its 35-hour workweek and generous social benefits collides with the realities of a hyper-competitive global economy? France, the land of wine, cheese, and worker protections, is facing this very dilemma. How did one of the world's most advanced economies find itself in such a precarious position? And what does it mean for the future of the French way of life? Let's unpack the intricacies of France's economic challenges. To understand France's current economic challenges, we need to take a step back and examine the historical context that shaped its economic model. France's approach to industrialization and economic development has been unique among its European peers, and this distinctive path has left an indelible mark on its present-day economy. During the Industrial Revolution, while countries like Britain and Germany rapidly embraced large-scale factory production, France took a different route. The country favored a slower, more measured approach to industrialization, emphasizing small, artisanal industries over massive factories. This was partly by choice and partly due to circumstances, including the loss of skilled workers to religious persecution years earlier, an early instance of brain drain that would ironically foreshadow a challenge France faces today. This slower pace of industrialization meant that while France may have lagged behind in raw productivity, it developed an economy that placed a higher value on its workers. The prevalence of smaller firms created a more competitive labor market, giving workers more bargaining power and fostering a culture that prioritized worker rights and protections. This legacy is evident in modern France, where workers are known for their assertive stance on labor issues and their willingness to take to the streets to defend their rights. In the aftermath of World War II, France experienced a period of rapid economic growth known as the Trente Glorieuses, or 30 Glorious Years. During this time, the government took a more active role in steering the economy, a policy known as dirigisme. This approach involved state intervention in key industries and the creation of national champions, large, often state-owned enterprises in sectors deemed strategically important. While this model drove impressive growth for several decades, it also created some of the structural rigidities that plague the French economy today. State-owned enterprises, while providing stable employment and contributing to national prestige, often lack the efficiency and adaptability of their private sector counterparts. The strong role of the state in the economy also led to a complex regulatory environment that can stifle innovation and entrepreneurship. Moreover, the focus on worker protections and social benefits, while admirable in many respects, has created challenges in a globalized economy where France must compete with countries that have more flexible labor markets. The famous 35-hour workweek, generous vacation allowances, and strong job protections make France an attractive place to work, but they can also make it difficult for businesses to adapt to changing market conditions. As we move into the present day, we see a France struggling to balance its social model with the demands of a competitive global economy. The country has made efforts to liberalize its economy, particularly since the 1980s, but change has been slow and often met with fierce resistance. The result is an economy that, while still one of the largest in the world, is losing ground to more dynamic competitors. This historical context is crucial for understanding the challenges France faces today. The country's economic model, born out of a unique industrialization process and shaped by post-war policies, has created a society with strong worker protections and a comprehensive social safety net. However, this same model now poses challenges in an era of rapid technological change and global competition. One of the most persistent and visible problems in the French economy is its labor market rigidity and consistently high unemployment rate. Despite being one of the world's largest economies, France has struggled for decades with unemployment levels that are typically higher than the European average. As of 2024, the unemployment rate stands at around 7.5%, an improvement from past years, but still significantly above many of its European peers. The roots of this unemployment problem are complex and multifaceted. On one hand, France boasts a highly educated workforce, with one of the highest rates of tertiary education in Europe. However, this strength paradoxically contributes to some of its labor market challenges. The French education system, while producing many graduates, often creates a mismatch between the skills taught and those demanded by the job market. This leads to a situation where many young people find themselves either overqualified for available positions or lacking the specific skills employers are seeking. Youth unemployment is particularly problematic, with rates often double the national average. This not only represents a waste of human capital, but also poses social and economic risks as a generation struggles to gain a foothold in the job market. The difficulty of finding suitable employment has led to an increase in the number of young, educated French citizens seeking opportunities abroad, exacerbating the brain drain issue we talked about earlier. Another factor contributing to France's labor market challenges is its stringent employment protection legislation. While these laws provide security for those in employment, they can also make employers hesitant to hire new workers, particularly in uncertain economic times. The costs and difficulties associated with laying off workers mean that many companies prefer to use temporary contracts or avoid expanding their workforce altogether. This creates a dual labor market, with well-protected insiders and a growing number of workers in less secure, temporary positions. The famous, or infamous depending on your perspective, 35-hour workweek is another distinctive feature of the French labor market. Introduced in 2000 with the aim of reducing unemployment by spreading available work, its effects have been mixed. While it has contributed to France's reputation for a good work-life balance, critics argue that it has reduced overall economic output and made French companies less competitive internationally. High labor costs are another factor impacting employment. France has one of the highest minimum wages in Europe, and employers face significant social security contributions. While these policies support income equality and fund France's generous social safety net, they can also discourage hiring, particularly for low-skilled workers. Efforts to reform the labor market have been ongoing but often face significant resistance. The 2024 legislative elections, which resulted in a hung parliament, have further complicated the reform process. The fragmented political landscape makes it challenging to implement the kind of comprehensive reforms many economists argue are necessary to address France's structural unemployment issues. Despite these challenges, it's important to note that France's labor market model isn't without its strengths. The emphasis on worker protection and rights has contributed to a high quality of life for many French citizens. The challenge moving forward will be to find ways to maintain these positive aspects while introducing more flexibility to boost employment and economic dynamism. As we look to the future, addressing these labor market challenges will be crucial for France's economic prospects. Finding ways to better align education with job market needs, introducing more flexibility into employment contracts while maintaining worker protections, and creating an environment that encourages job creation and entrepreneurship will all be key to reducing unemployment and boosting economic growth. However, as the recent elections and ongoing protests demonstrate, achieving these goals while maintaining social cohesion will require careful navigation of France's complex political and social landscape. Another significant challenge facing the French economy is its fiscal situation, characterized by persistent budget deficits and a growing public debt burden. These issues, while not unique to France, are particularly acute given the country's commitments to its extensive social welfare system and the demographic pressures it faces. As of 2024, France's fiscal deficit stands at around 4.9% of GDP, a level that is high by European standards and exceeds the 3% limit set by the European Union's Stability and Growth Pact. This persistent deficit spending has led to a steady increase in France's public debt, which is rapidly approaching 100% of GDP. While this level of debt isn't unprecedented among developed economies, it does pose significant challenges and limits the government's fiscal flexibility. Several factors contribute to France's fiscal challenges. On the spending side, the country's comprehensive social welfare system, including healthcare, education, and pensions, requires significant public expenditure. While these programs contribute to France's high quality of life and social cohesion, they also place a substantial burden on public finances. The pension system in particular has been a point of contention, with recent attempts to reform it sparking widespread protests. France's aging population exacerbates these fiscal pressures. As the proportion of retirees increases relative to the working-age population, there's growing strain on pension and healthcare systems. This demographic shift means that a smaller workforce is supporting a larger number of retirees, a situation that is not sustainable in the long term without significant reforms. On the revenue side, France already has one of the highest tax burdens in the OECD, making it difficult to address deficits through further tax increases. The country's high taxes, particularly on labor, can also discourage economic activity and investment, potentially limiting economic growth and, by extension, tax revenues. The COVID-19 pandemic has further strained France's public finances. Like many countries, France implemented substantial fiscal support measures to combat the economic effects of the pandemic. While necessary, these measures have led to a significant increase in public debt, adding to the long-term fiscal challenges. Efforts to address these fiscal issues have been complicated by political and social factors. The 2024 elections have made it more challenging to implement significant fiscal reforms. The fragmented political landscape means that any major policy changes require building broad coalitions, a difficult task given the divergent views on economic and fiscal policy among different political factions. Moreover, attempts to reduce public spending or reform social programs often face strong resistance from the public and labor unions. The French populace has historically been very active in protesting against policies perceived as threatening to their social model. This resistance to change, while understandable from a social perspective, can make it difficult to implement the kinds of reforms that many economists argue are necessary for long-term fiscal sustainability. Despite these challenges, the French government has been making efforts to address its fiscal situation. The 2024 budget proposal included a mix of spending cuts and new investments, aiming to gradually reduce the deficit while also supporting areas deemed crucial for future growth, such as the green transition. However, the projected deficit reduction relies heavily on phasing out pandemic-related measures and reducing energy subsidies, rather than fundamental structural reforms. Looking ahead, addressing France's fiscal challenges will require a delicate balancing act. On one hand, there's a need to ensure the long-term sustainability of public finances and comply with EU fiscal rules. On the other hand, any reforms need to be implemented in a way that maintains social cohesion and doesn't unduly impact the quality of life that French citizens have come to expect. Potential solutions could include further pension reforms to account for increased life expectancy, measures to increase the efficiency of public spending, and policies to boost economic growth and employment, which would in turn increase tax revenues. However, implementing these changes will require building political consensus and carefully managing public expectations. As we've seen, the country faces a complex set of issues that are deeply intertwined with its social and political fabric. Addressing its fiscal challenges while maintaining its social model and adapting to a changing global economy will be one of the key tasks facing French policymakers in the years to come. What do you think about France's economic situation? Do you see similar challenges in your own country? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video informative, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to our channel for more in-depth analysis of global economic issues. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.